Okay, all right, it's 5 p.m., so the meeting is called to order. We begin with the pledge of allegiance. That's okay with everyone? Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. There's the agenda attached. Is there review and motion for approval?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, then properly motion second. All in favor of approving the agenda stated, say amen. I'm not amen. Say aye.
Amen.
I'm back in the Baptist church in Eastern North Carolina.
I'm sitting on the back row.
Sitting in the back row. Ready to leave as soon as the service is over. Any public comments, ma'am?
No, sir.
Hey. Have y'all had a chance to take a look at the committee meeting minutes from April the 2nd?
9th?
9th, yes.
Yes. Motion to approve the minutes from April 9th?
Is that so? 29th.
I mean, should be, the 29th.
But we didn't have one. This is our first meeting since the 9th, right?
I mean, not, yes.
Yes.
You're correct. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm reading it on the screen wrong.
Okay. All right, so it's been properly motioned. Did you approve? Did you second, Ms. Gordon?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, it's been properly motioned and second. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand. All opposed, nay. 100%. Okay, construction update.
All right, well, good evening, everybody. I will go through the construction updates over here. The reporting format, as you guys know, provides the construction updates for the referendum. This will be gone 2019 model referendum, 2023 model referendum, and then we'll go through the 8% projects. On the 2019 referendum, we are currently showing one project with a red light. That is Robert Small's Leadership Academy. That is regarding the issues with J.E. Dunn and not meeting their contractual substantial completion. They have been put on notice by the architect, and they have been warned that there's $750 liquidated damages per day every time that they miss that substantial completion going forward.
When did that start, Mr. Vargas?
I'm sorry?
When did the 750 a day start?
That started on April 24th.
Okay.
2020. Yeah.
So they're clicking along and reading.
Oh, yeah. And just so you guys are aware, Alexander Marshall is constantly out there on site trying to make sure that the guys are staying on track to try to get this project done as soon as possible. But they have been notified of the liquidated damages being accrued. The remainder project.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, sir.
If it once it gets to the end, they still are behind, what steps do we take then to trigger the capture?
So the way that we're gonna do it and what they've been notified is that any amounts owed to them, they will be deducted from their final payout. So
they have, I can't think of the word, what's the money, retainage?
they have retainage.
That we hold to the end, and it'll exceed this amount that they owe, so we'll hold that from their retainage.
Okay.
The last payment on the retainage.
Yeah,
And on the topic of substantial completion, there's two pieces. First is substantial completion. That's the one that they're missed first. There is also a contractual obligated date for final completion. That's established as well. And if they miss that, they'll get noticed as well. And then they go additive.
Yeah.
But once you finish substantial completion and it's accepted, that's what stops the clock and the math is performed.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for having that, Mr. Bobby. Okay. All right.
Yep, I did want to report on the remaining 2019 referendum projects. The rest are showing all green lines. On the project closeouts, slides 29-32, we are showing 30 projects remaining. And to date, we have completed a total of 199 financial commitments. So we keep moving along, trying to close out the 2019 referendum. On the financial slides, slide 30. Yes, sir.
I just have a question. I'm learning, okay? Okay, so when I looked at the numbers, 43% of closeouts are due by June 30th.
Yes, sir.
And so that's a tremendous workload going through the pipeline.
Yes.
Prepared for that?
So
We're prepared to support that if the CMs can provide us the, supportive documentation with their invoice so that we can review it. And if everything's in order, you'll get paid.
And Mr. Harding, is there, CM, if that doesn't occur, are you planning any future penalties for repeating closeout?
Closeout is that we haven't been penalizing for closeout on these. That's a little different than the substantial completion listing. So as of right now, no, we're not, because at that point, we've taken the project, we're using the project, what we're talking about is the paper. And then getting paid. So as of right now, we were not gonna penalize for that. And part of the problem or the issue is a lot of these projects, you're talking about these smaller projects are a lot more complicated holding them to deadlines, whereas, and I say that meaning that there are factors that we may come to play that are holding up the complete closeout. So it's not as straightforward as say the Robert Smalls where there is no question there of the contractor being the one at fault for not meeting the deadline.
So if we are at fault, how do we identify and correct the gap?
Do you want me to add to that?
Yes.
So currently, we're working with the CMs and their subs. They've been having some issues with PA intercom closeouts, trying to get the work completed. What we've been trying to do slowly is implement checklists, a process that they clearly understand how to do. So what we've currently done, this is a PA intercom. We're also working with intrusion alarm and cameras. On the PA intercom side, what we have done is implement spot checks, security checks, and then after that is a teacher training. At the point of us completing the security spot check, that's when we consider them substantially complete. That's when we gather all the closeout documentation. What our tech sub-consultant, Stagefront, has been doing with us is they've been conducting and working with the CMs to provide commissioning reports that we can review. And if issues are identified that the CMs and the subs can't get out of to expedite that closeout, what we've been doing is working closely with the IT department to have some of their techs go and help troubleshoot on items that relate to networking issues and programming so that we can get projects closed out. And I do want to say that ever since we've done that, this started at the beginning of the year because we were obviously seeing a holdup of us reporting on PA intercoms going to be completed month to month and it's just pushing back. We have gotten at least a third of those projects through to the training phase with the teachers. If not, and what we're trying to do is by the time that we get to the end of the summers and the start of the next school year is hopefully have 2/3, if not more, completed so that we can just focus on the remainder and trying to get those wrapped up, which the remaining you'll see they'll fall with the Q3, Q4 2024 closeout. On cameras, we've been doing the same. We've been trying to get the contractors to move and get projects closed out. So we finally have seen some movement in the past month. We had a trouble sub. Eventually, this was a sub of a sub. I'm sorry. Yeah, they start getting down to the weeds, but they've been let go. The sub of a sub. That subcontractor, Allied Universal, has supplemented the workforce with more contractors are capable, and to date, we've actually seen a lot of movement. I think in the past month, and it seems like each week or so they tackle 1 or 2 schools to the point where all we have to do is just go tweak, work with IT, tell them to let us know, or have them let us know what the issues are, and we are tackling cameras. So hopefully, we told them we had a meeting with these guys. Gave them a deadline of July 28th, 29th, if I'm correct. And it was just basically telling them, hey, this is what we got to complete. We know that they're probably not going to get a majority of them, but we're putting the pressure so they can complete as much as possible. And the same with the intrusion. So we are expecting to get a schedule this Thursday on what they're going to commit. And from there, I'm working with Stagefront to try to see, hey, if they don't meet the schedule, what are going to be the implications? So we have a few backup plans, which are basically having us do supplementing them with labor, back charging the contractors to try to see if that's going to get them to move. So we're trying to find ways, first of all, before we start getting into notices. Because obviously we don't want to get to that point yet, but we are working closely. This is an ongoing effort. Every week, we meet on Mondays with the PA intercom contractor. There's no trouble child, Rich Tech. And then on Thursday, we meet with Allied Universal, which is the only contractor that is solely doing cameras and intrusion alarm. So it's something that it was decided prior to us doing the work that we would go with one vendor because it would make it easier to have one guy that knows the system, that is certified in that milestone, which is the camera server, as well as certified in the Linnell panels, which is your access control badges and the intrusion alarm, with some control. So we wanted to have one vendor, but we're trying to help them out to get done. Yes, sir.
I was gonna say as well as, well, at the end of all this, we'll have only one monitoring company. Which is what we prefer as compared to have multiple monitoring companies at the end.
That's right.
So I guess the follow-up question, do they realize the sense of urgency? And Colonel Gow was the first one to speak about, the closeout and the impact on the financials. Are they aware of the sense of urgency that we're placing on this?
They are, and aside from the financials, we have an ongoing meeting with Dr. Rodriguez every 2 weeks or so, where we update on these issues. We told them that aside from the financials, we have a sense of urgency because we're gonna have these systems up and running and like, we don't wanna find ourselves in an emergency situation where none of these systems are operational. So we're trying to let them know that beyond the financial implications and all of the stuff that we're doing, what we try to do is deliver something that we promise to the community. So they are aware that this is something that is a concern when it comes to the safety of the children. And I mean, it's just the world we live in. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I've been talking to a couple schools and they have not completed their staff faculty training on using all the devices. Partly because it's not ready to be tested and partly because it's ready to be tested. They haven't had time to train. And so one of the things we're going to have to talk to ISD and others is that's got to be a priority for training at the end of the school year and prior to the start of the school year. They've got to make sure everybody's trained and they get a chance to check it out.
Well, and I'd add to that right now, one of our complications is testing. They don't, as we're in the middle of the testing season,
They don't want.
they don't want to give us time
Exactly.
to do training because they're more focused on testing. And that's
They're
obviously their priority and understandably, so we're trying to push this through as we're competing with a testing cycle right now that's going on.
Anybody else gonna spend $440 million?
I'm sorry.
Is anyone else gonna spend $440 million with these contractors?
Well,
Oh, yeah, I just kind of did a little nod, and I was gonna say, this is what, so. With the startup of the 2023, when the tech, because obviously we still have a little bit of tech infrastructure, work and safety security. What we have decided is that we're pulling work aside from Universal. We have another vendor, Obsidian, and then we have other two that we're just gonna start contacting, but we're trying to get those guys off, and they know that we're not giving them any. They're upset, but you know what? You haven't delivered. And Bridge Tech, we are saying, let's just finish the work that we have on P Intercom. After this, we're parting ways. There's no more work for those guys. So we're not following the same track.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Nate, Mrs. Gordon?
You were speaking about training for, I guess, the teachers.
Yes,
How long will the training take? Is it half day?
it's a full day. It depends though. If it's a high school, it may be multiple days. And this is done by Colleen Beck with IT, with Ed Tech. She is
full day.
the way that they're doing is in the professional
They have
development.
different groups maybe.
Yes, because they do different groups. And thank you for
And their
that.
rotation.
It's rotation. They do it through the PDs. They go around, they get a group of teachers, and what they do with them is have them each test out the system in their classroom, so they get familiarized with it. And at the same time, what they do is they have the admin at the front test the system in the front as well, so they get the training. But by the time they're done with the training that day, everybody's pretty aware of what they have to do. So
So for an individual teacher, I don't think you're talking about more than an hour. It's the different groups. We're training all of them, okay? Training them in different pods.
maybe a day for school.
that's correct. That's correct.
Who owns the schedule for training? Is it the provider or us?
So, for the office staff, it's a combination, I would say, we work with them for the training, for the, teachers, it is us, we do that training. That's what Colleen is taking on,
Yes.
and, she does that training, so they train our administrative staff. And the office staff, we train the teachers. We being technology.
But good discussion. And please, none of you that are in here, take it as I'm casting aspersions on anyone in this room. It's all about making the training on. And, you know, once the sense of urgency is communicated, organizations outside tend to amp up. If that's okay.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay, next one, Mr. Vargas.
All right.
You're doing good so far.
So continuing with the financial updates, the financial update as of the end of April. We are reporting everything with a green traffic light. The current referendum budget is $375,710,000. The paid and committed funds total at the end of April was a total of 373,226,125 dollars, which is 99.34% of our funds for the referendum, and the remaining available funds, including the contingency, total $2,483,876, which is 0.66% of the remaining portion. The contingency return of $656,061, and the use of $776,547. The contingency remaining at the end of April overall was $826,734. So overall, we're still tracking in the right direction with the 2019 referendum.
And I'm sorry for interruption. I'm not sure if it was included. I just wanted everyone listening tonight to hear that we still are analyzing and forecasting that soft landing. Or anything that remains can be delivered within the original budget that was recapped at the beginning. So, you know, we just want to make sure that that's shared in this format.
Thank you very much.
Any questions in 2019?
On the referendum, I just have one, and then I'm gonna amp down a little. On the financial, the cash flow, I saw 370.87 million are targeted to have been spent through this year budgeted. We've actually spent 316.53 million. So it's about 54.3 million deficit between paid and committed. So that 54 million, is that what remains to be paid? We've already committed. So that's the amount.
That's correct.
Okay. What's holding that up?
That is just the invoicing from the contractors.
A lot of it's the closeout that we talked about earlier.
We
And
also have,
the holes out there.
we have stuff to get done still.
there is some outstanding remaining items that still need to be folded into that, but the primary factor in it is receiving an acceptable payout that we can pay. And a lot of them are having to get to the finish line and then close out.
Okay. All right, well, if we could just highlight this, you know, maybe ongoing. All right.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
like Robert was saying, I think this summer we should see a huge chunk come in.
We have seen for the last 3 months now running that comparing to the forecast figure for the month, that the actuals are exceeding that, but that's to be expected. That deficit that you speak of currently, it'll get closed between now and the end of December.
Thank you very much. Okay, we proceed.
All right.
Unless Mr. May or Ms. Gordon or Colonel, anyone else has a comment?
All right, 2023 bond referendum, the monthly updates, those are slides 38 through 48. All monthly updates are currently reporting green for budget and schedule. I'm just gonna quickly highlight some of the project recaps on May River Elementary School. We have actually completed the design development cost estimate review. And I do wanna give you guys a heads up that currently the project is trending on budget. We are working with the CMs and the design team to get the CDs turned in June so that we can do another preliminary cost review of the 50% CDs to make sure that we're still tracking in that direction. So we'll give you guys more updates as we proceed with that project. At Hilton Head On High School, so you guys, where they're the groundbreaking, you guys, if you did the tour, you got to see the temporary entrance. It is completed. As the contractors had said, we had to do that during the spring break. And we are glad to announce that we have the GMP under contract for phase 1A and 1B, which is $80 million, give or take, for which is basically what we did the groundbreaking for out there. And we are waiting for the remaining documents so that we can price out the other portions of the work, which will be the follow-up phases, phase 2 renovation, which is the existing D wing renovation and ROTC. Then you got phase 3, which is the renovation of both gyms, which we have started the design development plans for that portion. Phase 4, which is the renovation of the package, you can see from the slides, that is scheduled to begin in the third quarter of this year. So as we make progress through that project, we'll give you guys more updates. And on the financial update for the referendum, the 2023 referendum, we are reporting all the figures with a green light. The current referendum budget is $439,035,000. Paid and committed funds total $94,443,194. That is roughly 21.51% of the program. The remaining available funds, including the contingency, total $344,591,806. That is 78.49% of the program. And to date, we have no activity to report on contingency as once we do use that, but current plan is obviously to not use a contingency. It's too early in the game. We'll report on that. The contingency remaining currently at the program level is $11.5 million. Yes.
You good?
Oh, and then Ms. Boatright has her hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the clock meeting, it was mentioned that in the Main River Elementary School, the initial plan to use the geothermal HVAC heat exchanger was not available or able to be used. Could you tell me why?
So I'll say, so the initial plan was not actually to do geothermal. We were gonna go with standard heat pump system.
But with the wells.
Right, and so we actually Alexander went to some training on ICF in Texas. That's the insulated concrete foam. That's how we're going to construct this building, which we were the first one in South Carolina that we're very excited about, school building. And what they were doing in Texas was they were mixing ICF with geothermal. And so we looked into that, and there was the Investment Recovery Act. Some of the funding from that we saw could pay for it. And we thought that it would we get about a 30% from the IRS at the end of the project. And we thought that difference would pay for the difference between standard and geothermal. In the end, it didn't. And part of the problem for us here in South Carolina compared to Texas is there's not as many well drillers. It's not as common a system. So we were paying a higher premium for geothermal than we get in that from the IRA, the Investment Recovery Act rebate. So we decided to go away from it and go back to what we had originally planned, actually, which was a traditional heat pump system.
It's more efficient. More energy.
Oh yeah, I was pretty excited about it and I wanted to do it. And also tacked into that. That was part of the reason for the inflated costs, not only that we don't have as many well drillers, it's not as common. They had to do the conductivity tests on the soil and they ended up having to do deeper wells than they initially thought. So that made the cost even. So in the end, I personally would have loved to do it. And I hate the fact that we're not going to do it, but the dollars just didn't add up to make it where it would be.
Good question, Colonel. Any other? Ms. Boatright?
Thank you, Chairman. It was cutting out just a smidge. Can you clarify what you said about the pack refurbishment for phase 4 of the Hilton Head? Did you say third quarter of this year it's going to start, or was that the design work? I think I misunderstood.
The design work.
Okay, so the design work is going to start in the third calendar quarter of this calendar year?
That's correct.
And then will you follow the same process where you bring it to like the parents or the SIC or whatever to talk about the design, or is it a more minor than that?
Performing Arts Center is more it's new carpet, new floor, new sound system. We'll meet with the school staff for sure. I mean, we'll bring a report to the SIC if needed. I don't see the feedback like we did in the design,
Right.
just because we're not making we're making improvements to the building that's already there. We're not making any major changes to the building that's there.
And then final, just because I'm trying to understand, so that's phase 4, but you're starting to design it in the fall. And then the gym renovations are phase 3. Are those already under design consideration, or just give me the order of those phases quickly?
So yeah.
Because I get these questions.
Phase 2 is already under design. That's in process, and that's the cafeteria and
It's no phase 2. It was it's the JROTC. And
Yeah.
next is
The D wing.
D wing.
now you'll have to talk on the rest of it. Seeing I don't know the rest of it.
Because as I recall, the gym in some of the initial discussions was going to have a more substantial redo because it's going to back into the new field house, right? Or not the new field house, the new track and everything. Like there's a connection. I don't know. I just remember that discussion being had. So
No, remember, there was the conversation of putting a field house in the back, but when the decision was made to build the new field house as a standalone.
Yeah.
There's not another field house going on the back of the school, so.
No, I knew that. I just didn't remember. Okay. I remember there was some of that discussion. So I thought maybe the gym was going to be a more substantial redo, more than just like floors and bleachers type of thing.
Can I chime in? Sorry, this is Carol.
Yeah.
Phase 2 is that existing D wing and ROTC, but also I think a part of phase 2 is looking at the cafeteria that kind of falls in with the gym, and the whole athletic back there, because the existing cafeteria will eventually become athletic areas. So I think that falls up under that phase, and I just know because Don talked about we need to look at it again.
Okay, and if you guys send me an email or something, just because people start asking, and I don't want to tell them the wrong thing and make them mad. So basically, it sounds like what you're saying, Carol, is that what's currently under design, which is phase 2, could also include the gyms, which will be built in phase 3. And then we're going to start in the fall, the design phase for phase 4, but that won't begin anytime soon.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Boatwright, just so you know, the architect and the contractor will be there Thursday at the SIT meeting.
Good.
And we'll prep them to make sure they talk about the schedule. And I know the contractor will be talking about safety procedures and the schedule as well, so.
Perfect. Yeah, because people just hear different things. So I just want to make sure I'm not handing out the wrong information. Thanks very much.
Ms. Boatwright, I'll also add to this conversation coming away from last week's clock meeting. We did get some feedbacks in particular on this project. And what we discussed was expanding the level of the report for Hilton Head Island High School because of this challenge that this multi-phase project inherently carries with it. And our goal is to create slides that will go into a little more detail of each of these phases to do a better job clearly communicating the intent of each phase. So hopefully that will help going forward as well.
No, I appreciate that tremendously. And I recognize that some Hilton Head folks can be, you got to balance over-informing. You don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. I just want to make sure I have my general facts straight, because people are very thrilled. The parking's gone well. The traffic rerouting's gone well. They're seeing the construction underway. So it's really getting positive feedback. And I just want to make sure if someone comes to me with a question, I don't misrepresent something. So I appreciate all of that.
We'll follow up with that information for you. Right. Moving on, other project updates, that's the remaining 8% projects. All project updates are currently reporting green traffic lights for budget and schedule. And if you guys go to the community outreach slide 96, the groundbreaking ceremony, as you guys were all aware, and you guys were present at the ceremony, the 2023 farm referendum project for Hilton Head Island High School took place last week, Wednesday, May 8th. Now, moving on to the request for proposals, RFPs, as well as RFQs, the request for qualifications. Right now, the professional design services for the roofing consultant, the notice of intent of award was issued for the roofing services. And the RFQ for professional design services for Ladies Island Middle School and the New Bluffton Early Childhood Center were awarded. Ladies Island Middle School has been awarded to Quackenbush Architects and Planners, and the Bluffton Early Childhood Center, as you guys were aware, it went to for a couple of months. So with that being said, any questions?
Any questions, name?
Mr. Campbell is also on the line, but he hasn't raised his hand.
Any other questions, comments from anyone there? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bond. Well done, sir. Well done. Okay, who's up next?
We are moving to the 8%, so Mr. Nick Mila and Carol will be taking this. I know Carol is remote, so. Is there anything, I see her mic's off, unless Carol wants to say anything, I'm gonna hand it over to Mr. Nick Fila to talk about, the request that was made to bring the list from 48 million down to 30 million and how that was done. So, Nick, I'll take it away.
Yeah, happy to be here in person.
Welcome, sir.
So you have a lot more material available this time around. We do have a overall binder, as we've been referring to it, that is inclusive of all the detail related to the $30 million that we're bringing forward. Along with that, you have some tables that show the recurring items and the schedules that we have on more specific different types of items and the detail around each of these line items. So some of them have more detail than others. Obviously, you have items where it's related to a specific problem. That's where pictures will provide a little more description. And what's on the screen right now is the actual funding for that we're requesting for the $30 million related to the categories of the items. So that being said, looking at those categories, you will see that academic support only totaled roughly $436,000. Asset preservation was the majority of the items that were identified, and you can see it's across multiple locations. District level for district items as a category, let me be more specific, smaller number of 682,000. You have the technology, and then you have life safety and security. So this is how we try to categorize the $30 million that we are recommending. Are there any questions on that $30 million by category?
Mrs. May, Ms. Gordon.
Mr. Campbell's hands up.
Mr. Campbell, sir?
Yes, my question is, Royal Branch Early College High School been having problems with their scoreboard and sound system. When is that going to be taken care of?
You talking about in the football stadium?
No, in the baseball and softball stadium.
All right, I will look into that and get back to you.
Okay, now when are they going to start working on the floor in the gym?
So the floor work in the gym is going to occur this summer, I believe.
It's going to be ready before basketball season?
That is the plan, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Campbell's hands up. Ingrid.
Ms. Boatwright?
Hey, I'm sorry. I may be coming in at the wrong time here, so just feel free to shut me down. But I have a couple of questions about the presentation with the budget with the fund balance. Have you guys talked about that already? Because I know some of these items were included as a potential fund balance use. And one of the things that I would like to talk about is the District Educational Service Center, $5 million security vestibule. That's a pretty big ticket item to kind of just throw on the 8% funding with the under the category of life safety and security without really understanding. I know there's HVAC involved potentially. I don't know if we're talking about multiple entrances. We've got Right Choices Academy that is fairly, as I understand it, secure. Is it just talking about spending $5 million to redo the front and make secure that front entrance? Can you, I think we need more details than just kind of, the 8% is like we're painting some stuff, we're replacing some floors. $5 million security upgrade to a vestibule for the district office, I think warrants more detail. But if I miss something and I'm jumping at the wrong time here, you guys I can catch up later.
So, if you'll go to page 23 out of 78 of the little capital projects books, you'll see there's the rendering of the proposed entrance. So it is an actual addition onto this building that allows for there to be the receptionist behind a blow resistant glass and in a secure area where people can be buzzed in. It includes a waiting room for people. We have problems a lot of times with the front area getting too crowded. It has a restroom that is added. That is to stop people from being able to go through having to go through the building in order to use the restroom. It holds any visitor in this secure area before they're checked in and allowed into the rest of the building. I'll just make one statement. I know a few of y'all were here this week for our safety and security summit at the building. And if you heard a couple of the district office members' comments, they were very concerned about the security and the safety in this building. And that's something we hear a lot. So that price tag of $5 million includes that building addition, which includes the restroom. It also includes the fire sprinkler service to begin in this building, because if any addition to this building will require a fire sprinkler system to be added to this building. It also includes a service loop around the building for additional fire protection, fire hydrants, and a loop around, which also the fire department has required us to do if we do any additions to this building. So basically that $5 million includes that addition on the front, a fire sprinkler riser and the beginning of that service for this building, and a fire loop around the building for fire hydrants and things of that nature.
So this is I guess part of my question is, we're adding all of this on. This to me doesn't feel as much like an 8% type of project. Here's what I question a little bit. I understand the security level that is required, bulletproof glass, et cetera, for schools. We have documented incidents of school shootings, and you're responsible for someone else's children. That is a different standard than a workplace standard. The number one, I'm pretty sure about this, the number one place where shootings occur are in healthcare centers. But we don't, we're not going to spend $5 million making the lobby of a hospital bulletproof, right? Because that doesn't necessarily the best use of funds. So I just kind of question spending $5 million. I believe when we did Hilton Head High's vestibule redo, where we put in some security things and whatnot, it was $1.2 million. Spending $5 million on this level of security for essentially, because district office, as I understand, the Right Choices has its own security already, right? That's a separate, you can't go through Right Choices and get into the district office. Am I correct about that?
Correct. We added a security vestibule to Right Choices as part of the 2019 referendum.
And there are other, I know the tech area down there is pretty exposed, right? I know do you guys have SROs in the district office on a regular basis like you do with the schools?
So Right Choices has an SRO. We have an armed security guard at the district office.
Yeah. I mean, to me, this doesn't feel like an 8%. I think that's a lot of money and a lot of adding on and a lot of extra security for something that is not a school. But, you know, if that's what the board wants to do, that's fine. I just, that is what, 18% of the money that we have available for HVACs, furniture, you know, upgrades at our schools. And I understand the concern, and certainly people, you know, everyone probably like to work in a bulletproof office at some point. We have panic buttons at our healthcare facility, you know, in case, and we have, you know, services there that warrant panic buttons, right? I just question the amount of money that that's going to cost for the district office, especially because that office, it's not all that secure. You're going to secure the front office, but there's that back door, there's the side door, you got the doors with kids coming in and out for the child screening, right? You've got the doors that people come in from the other side of the parking lot when they're coming to a board meeting. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Comments on that? If not. Ms. Boatright, I certainly agree with you about fiscal discipline and what have you, and using money judiciously. I sort of have to divert a little bit. My commitment is as great to the employees as it is to the kids. And so I want everybody working here to feel as safe as we're gonna make those kids feel. And so for me, I would ask if you'll allow us to move through the process and see what the overall feeling is. And, you know, the majority will take us wherever we need to go. If that's okay.
100%. And that's what I just question a little bit is the 8% process for something of this magnitude. That's a non-school issue.
Yes, ma'am. Duly noted. Thank you, ma'am. All right.
She did mention the other item of being the funding. I was gonna let that dovetail into you speaking on. What did you mention something, Ms. Boatright, about the
HVAC?
fund balance?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, good afternoon, this is Tanya. So we did speak previously about the possibility of a couple other opportunities of funding, one being the fund balance for the current school year. So our tax revenues are coming in very healthy this year, as well as interest income above our budget projections. And we do expect an amount of money to be available for potential for board direction. Those items have not been taken off of the 8% list. So one of them was there was some technology that was potentially proposed for laptops for teacher that remains on the 8% list, and the district office renovations, which also remain on the list. So I think that finalizing that project list as is would probably be the priority. And right now we are really uncertain as to the amount of what that increase in fund balance will be. It will most likely be, late September before we have a final number. And, but we would like to, propose, and, I can talk more about this in future finance committee and full board meetings, that we actually transfer any excess to a capital projects fund and then identify a project list of items, additional items that the board may want to fund. So that is what I'm proposing, since that number is really uncertain at this point. So that leads us to another topic. Do you have any questions on that particular thing? And I can, before I move on. No, okay. So another opportunity has become available, one-time opportunity. So within our current millage rate, we have the opportunity to actually fund additional 8% projects this year, or the opportunity, the alternative would be to issue a small amount of permanent referendum debt. And I misspoke earlier when I said in a previous meeting when I said it would reduce the permanent debt in January, it actually would reduce the immediate bond anticipation note. So we had discussed in a previous debt meeting, debt day, I believe we had in March, that we would borrow approximately a $50 million bond anticipation note. So if we chose not to do fund additional 8% projects, we can reduce that $50 million band and issue a small amount, say 13 million or some number of permanent debt and still maintain the current millage that we have. So either option is available at the board's will, and we can be happy to entertain any questions on that topic going forward.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, and bring that up. Obviously, you have a take on it. What would be your, if you want to advise, what would you want to advise?
Not sure I should provide an opinion whether we should do one or the other. If there are different additional needs in capital projects or any particular purchases that the board wishes to make, then we could certainly use that opportunity. What it would do is have any borrowing would be sooner rather than down the road, which would potentially increase costs later, be increased cost of capital projects or other capital purchases. If we're able to do that, it could also reduce some interest costs when we repay the debt. So that does have some advantages, but there are some alternative viewpoints that it is additional borrowing if we do the 8%. Versus the just issuing permanent debt is what was already planned for the board. So if you wish to stay at $30 million, we can certainly do that. And we can issue a little bit of referendum debt that was already approved. Or we can, if you choose to take on some of the projects that may have been reduced from the $48 million to the $30 million number, then we can certainly look at possibility of funding some of those projects as well. So it's really the will of the board.
Can I weigh So there's been a lot of conversation. We brought in the bond advisor. And if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm still learning this process. The bond anticipation note helps us in our credit rating, as well as the tax anticipation note. Is that correct?
Well, the tax anticipation note does not help us in our bond rating. That is because in a situation where our fund balance, our credit rating, same thing. Credit rating, bond rating I use it interchangeably. A tax anticipation note would mean our fund balance isn't sufficient to cover the cash flows. And so really all of our rating calls with Moody's and Standard & Poor's always say you need a higher fund balance in order to stabilize your cash flows and not have to borrow money and incur interest costs because of your cash flow situation. Now we are at the point for the last, over 20 years, we issued a TAN, but no longer do that. And that will, it has the potential of improving our credit rating. A ban is just a temporary bond in anticipation of a permanent bond. And we're using that temporary bond because interest rates are expected to go down and decline we have been waiting on them to decline, and they haven't, the Fed hasn't quite done that yet. But interest rates on bonds are anticipated to decline. So we had hoped to issue a temporary bond now of about 50 million and then issue permanent debt in January when we believed that the interest rates would be lower.
Okay.
So I don't think that one would have any effect on the credit rating.
Okay.
It's not my sense that it would have no effect on the credit.
Okay.
And also, if I can add, in January, you're expecting the market to be more competitive in our favor.
Yes, I keep forgetting that part. There's not a lot of bond activity in January, so We think that just as we come off the winter break, that we believe that there's not a lot of bonds out there, so we think we'll have more competition and more bidders in the queue, and so in the electronic queue that we have, and we think that that will give us a better rate as well.
Any question? Snake? Okay. Well, there's been a lot of discussion. Huh?
So the person asked the question left.
There's been a lot of discussion, and what's being done now is we're looking at what would be viable projects for the next $13 million. And we want to have a lot of rigor about that, because not only is it a financial issue in terms of reflecting and protecting us from volatility and interest rates going forward, but also it's a very politically sensitive time. And so we always have to be aware of what that means for people who can really have a significant impact, rightfully so. Okay. So what we've asked is if finance and operations and others can take a very rigorous look at this and then come forward with something that we can take to the board. Intuitively, I can see where adding the additional 13 million is valuable. I didn't always say that way. But the numbers and what the potential impact on lower borrowing rates could be significant to me. So we're holding it in abeyance for this meeting, but we wanted to, Robert and Madam CFO wanted to present it, get it out in current dire, and see, what type of direction should we be going for. But next meeting, we definitely come forward. We cleared with the superintendent. There's space, there's time to do this deeper dive and understand it, so we're in good shape. But I wanted to capture. Is that accurate, Mr. Colonel Guy?
Yes, very much so. It is really a strategic decision. It looks at what we do with a temporary window. We have 1 year where we're going to see additional revenue. And then what do we do with it? And there's good things you can do. You can buy capital assets that you know are going to go up in value now. There's good things you can do by paying down some debt early, save on an interest. What we can't do with this revenue excess is put it into recurring kind of expenses that's going to cause us to pay more in the future. We want to use it for things that will save us money in the future, not pay more in the future. And so if you use that fundamental, very simple strategy, I think Ms. Crosby has given us some good options. We have some decisions to make on which one we do, but as long as we do something that looks for cost benefits in the future with a temporary revenue excess. That's, a complicated thing in a very simple way of forming it.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the guidance, clarification. Okay, that it, Ms. Crosby? Then may we revert back to Mr. Campbell raised one about the scoreboard. And yeah, let me finish. I'll be right back.
Okay, I was before you move on to something else, I want to address that as well.
Can I finish this though?
Go ahead.
Okay, so then let's, the question I have about what Mr. Campbell raised is that that's something that takes place at a school. And I don't know if it's been recurring or extended. And so he's bringing it up here. Is there something in the protocols and the systems that the system isn't working so it can be identified and
Yeah, so
that's just for, to take back and try to debug if necessary.
So this was the first I had heard of it. So first thing I'm gonna do is go back, look at our work orders, see when a work order went in, find out the history of it. Because I'm not aware of how long this has been going on. So that's what I'm gonna investigate that, and I'll get back to Mr. Campbell on what the repair, what the plan is for it.
And
So it's a maintenance item. Let's just be clear that that's not a.
And part of it is the system should work. It shouldn't take this meeting
Well, that's correct.
Yeah, so what we're asking is for you to do some root cause, not you, me and I'll help you and everybody else. Do some root cause analysis as to why the system isn't taking care.
Well, that's why we'll do a deeper dive into the work orders to see what the history's been. When was the work order placed? What happened? All that. Right now, I don't have that information.
No problem, no problem. Just want to make sure you, I mean, that's. Okay.
Just
Yes, sir.
a question, could you have Mr. Campbell speak to what he's talking about, when you said that there's this system that is not broken, could you have Mr. Campbell speak to what exactly talking about?
Let me paraphrase from Mr. Campbell, unless he wants to say it again, but there's a school board.
He already spoke about it.
Yeah, he's already spoken.
Okay.
He's already spoken about it, put it into the public domain here, and we're just following up, trying to make sure we reach closure.
Okay,
And what it was is there's some school boards that have not been working. And so he brought it up here, which is a good reason to bring it up.
yes,
Yeah, so that's what.
yeah, I just want to make sure that the public knows this is the end, but, excuse my tardiness, so, yes, yeah.
Good follow-up
Yes,
question.
yes, yeah.
What's next?
Yeah, my question was,
He had a question for Tanya.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say that, in the entity of her bringing that up, this approaching, budget times and, moving forward, I think that, that is something that we should, actually, I think that's something that should come to the full board, that we should have a conversation about that, I'm not sure whether you're gonna bring it up, not in your report, or as an update, but when you do, I was thinking that would be possibly a good time, or, I think that that's something that needs to come to the full board, that information that she just brought to us.
You're talking about the, what are you referring to? Funding, yeah, this is just from me.
Right.
Well, and on that line, what I was gonna say is that our schedule kind of for going out for bonds is the second meeting in June. And we would like to have, my goal would be to have an 8% list approved the first meeting in June, which gives us a backup the second meeting if needed. So we may want to do another operations committee this month and bring to you a $43 million list for you to look at.
Very comfortable.
Yeah, I've asked, Franny Heiser, our bond counsel, to tentatively come in the June 25th board. I think our schedule is a little shifted because of graduations back a week in June. So we're on the 11th and the 25th, I believe.
Yes.
Instead of the first and the third Tuesday. So I've asked Ms. Heiser to come on the 25th tentatively for bond resolutions that will occur for 8% and referendum funds. So that's sort of my timeline. In order for us, it takes about 30 days to get all the bond documentation ready to go, get a Moody's rating, get the bidders to bid on the bond rates, and then another 30 days for closing where the cash is in hand. So it's going to take about 2 months from the time the board approves it. So we do need some things in place to make sure the millage is properly presented to the county auditor by July 31st as well. So there's some timelines that we're kind of trying to follow there to make sure everything's in line.
So can you and Mr. Alden give us a timeline so we're back into meet all the data?
Well, you do have to avoid graduation too. As I was just looking at my calendar, and we can talk about this at the end, but if we did it the last week in May, that might be either, I know Monday or Tuesdays are better for you.
So already on the 28th, technology is temporarily scheduled to meet at 3:00. So the week of the 27th, Monday, the 27th is Memorial Day.
Okay.
Technology is tentatively scheduled to meet on the 28th. There's nothing on the 29th, 30th.
I will not be here on the 29th.
Okay, so now let's see.
You can't do, you don't like Tuesdays or you don't like Wednesdays?
No, I'm good. Now that I'm in a regular teaching, I'm not teaching lessons anymore, so.
Oh,
No, we're good.
okay.
Upset.
So now unless you can do it earlier on the 28th,
Yeah, but
academics is on the 22nd.
Can't with the
So,
28th, you're
what
not?
about the
28th,
23rd?
29th, or 30th.
What about the 23rd?
Be the Thursday the week prior.
Yes. About the 20th.
What time was that concert?
1800.
Six.
I can.
So that suggested if it started like
That's
maybe
only
at
a
3,
week
then
from
still give Mr. McDaniel.
Would that work for you?
3 on the 23rd? Yeah, I think I can do that.
3:00.
So what time are we talking about on the
I
23rd?
think what's being proposed is three P.M.
Oh,
I have county council finance committee for the first look at the budget. Sorry. I have a senior this year and I've got a series of county council meetings, I'm sorry.
So
Twenty-second.
maybe,
22nd academics is at 5 o'clock on the 22nd, so. It's probably it's not.
Saturday.
No, not available.
Monday the 27th wide open.
Not available.
You necessarily need to be there. We're gonna be looking at the $43 million list and you're gonna take yours to the finance committee. And won't the finance committee have a little say in whether or not what are you presenting to finance?
I
No.
don't have any plans to
Okay,
present
you do
this
not.
finance meeting at
Okay.
this time.
So why do we need the second meeting, you guys?
To look at a $43 million project list. Yeah, right now,
But I remember,
I can have a stand-in, assuming those can participate, so.
I don't remember being there when we did the list.
we need finance. No, finance center.
Right, you don't have to be it because we made the final decision, and the list, finance was never there.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was operations, I mean, it's just gonna be a caveat to having there, but finance was never required, we never really involved finance there.
Yeah, so it's not necessary, but we're trying to make sure we're collaborating with everybody, so we're surprised when it comes to the board.
If you all choose a date that works for you, I will make sure someone is there that is knowledgeable enough to manage the discussion.
I mentioned Saturday, but that didn't fly.
Either Mr. Nurick, I'm good with Saturday. Mr. Nurick or a staff member.
No problem, I'll leave it to you, Ms. Dodd.
So with this committee, are we going back to what?
Sounds like you had the 23rd at 3 o'clock.
But yes, it must before that.
I didn't think the others flew.
Right.
I don't think that, I think it was a conflict. And you're gonna have a designee there, right, Ms. Crossman?
Yes.
Okay.
So the 23rd at 3 o'clock?
Is that good for you, Nick?
Yes.
Sure.
Y'all interrupted my soap opera time.
Oh, my God.
Hey, that's serious.
That's serious.
We'll show you how to record it.
Okay.
Okay, everybody okay?
Operations, 3 o'clock.
On the 23rd.
On the 23rd. Okay.
Just for clarity, materials for that meeting would need to be distributed by the 21st that evening or the 22nd that day of.
Well, I think everybody needs at least 48 hours.
That'd be a lot of stuff. So plan on getting those final docs reviewed and approved and ready to give to Robin by close of business that Monday.
Does that work for you, Ms. Cushenberry? You sure? Okay.
That gives you all day on the 21st and all the 22nd.
21st is a board meeting, so I guarantee you that things will not be taking place for operations on the 21st. It's a board meeting on Hill Head, so.
It is.
Okay. Anything else? All right, next item.
I believe we have the granting easements, which I believe is the cartilage will be presenting.
Thank you. Good evening, board members and staff.
Good evening.
Nice to see you all. So this administrative regulation, OS 42, has been developed. This was at the request of Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith suggested that the district develop administrative regulation with respect to easements that lets the public know what is required if an entity would like to ask us for an easement. So this is following the law And it follows our general format for administrative regulations, the purpose under coherent governance, the superintendent's expectations for guidelines for easements, our non-discrimination clause, and then we have the legal definitions because there's different kinds of easements, temporary construction permit, and the authority, we bring them to the board and you all approve them. And we give that information, it goes through operations first. And then we have the approval process that Mr. Otting has reviewed and approved. And then Board of Education approval, because sometimes you'll say in operations, you need more information or more clarity. Sometimes you want the person who's asked the entity asked for easement to come and present to all of you. So we've got that in there too. And all easements have to comply with state and federal laws. And the person or entity requesting the easement, they're responsible for the costs involved. Survey, legal fees. And other costs. So that's what that is. We describe the different types of easements. And that we keep a record of all of our easements. And then at the end, our legal references reflect the statutory law under South Carolina Code of Laws, and then the board coherent government manual administrative regulations. So thank you, Mr. Smith, for your suggestion. I think it would be helpful for the public to know.
Well done, Ms. Smith.
Thank you for getting it done. I think it's,
And then the next item is our FOIA report. So,
Before you go on, I just want to make sure,
yes, sir.
this easements, policy is just codifying what we already followed.
Yes,
Right.
yes, and
Yes.
it's given to you for information because your coherent governance board doesn't approve those. We provide them, the superintendent providing them for information.
Okay, I just
Yes.
want to make sure we're not doing anything different, just so we can note it down. Okay.
Yes, sir, that's exactly right. All right, so then, second, item that we have, along with our communications department, and Ms. Molly Godley is here. We appreciate all of her work, because she is the staff member that compiles our report that the board requires. And in this first quarter, we have had 18 requests, that was for January, February, March. And we're taking a look at this as far as these 18 requests. 55% came from citizens. 28% with procurement related with respect to contracts and bids. And the procurement department is always very helpful in promptly providing information requested. And then 17% were media related.
It was interesting to see the cost of copy.
Yes.
Glad to see you
And under the statute, we are also, permitted to charge for that because that's appropriate to charge for those costs.
I just want to put out that I feel bona fide now, because I finally had my first FOIA quest against me.
Did you?
You've now arrived.
I feel bona fide now.
I know.
Somebody has me for emails between me and the superintendent. It's like, yeah,
That's not interesting.
feel like I'm real now.
Anything else?
That's all, sir. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
And then this will go to the board and we just need a motion to recommend that it be presented to the board.
So usually if there's no, if it's unanimous, it goes to consent agenda. And then any board member can remove it from consent agenda.
Right.
And so we need a motion.
To
approve it.
So is there a motion to approve the presentation?
So moved.
Second? Okay, duly motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Are you recommending it to consent agenda? Is that your motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Before board approval.
Okay. Thank you, consigliere.
Thank you. Did you have a question?
No, it's Linda knows.
Okay. Okay.
You can call me anytime on any questions, and if you do have a further question, let me know.
Yeah. Look.
If you will not be
emailing
you.
in terms of, in terms of, FOIA requests is done to, Mrs. Bruder?
Well, it's through Office of Communications and Legal together, but it's all on our website, so the requesters usually send it in on a job form.
Right.
Send in requests.
Right.
So everything's posted up there, so everyone can see it.
I understand, I'm just understanding that the requests are sent to the communications department.
Well,
Mr. Smith, hey, that's a good question. So the requests that come through, this is Candace, the requests that come through, they come to Ms. Cartledge, myself, and to Ms. Godley, and to Jillian, who is Ms. Cartledge's paralegal. And so they all come to us because legal is an important part of the process as well. And then we pretty much tag team it, and we all handle it as need be and get the information from the respective departments or from IT when they need to perform a search. So we have a lot of checks and balances with all of us on there.
Thank you, Ms. Bree, that's exactly what I was asking. You must read my mind, but thank you very much. Good question, quick response.
Thank you.
Okay, next item. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Randy Majors.
Good evening,
Big boss.
committee chair and fellow board members.
Good evening.
We are gonna go through this. We are presenting tonight maintenance and custodial report update for the period of April 1st through the 30th. The first page you'll see is our custodial update for inspections. We've had 5 inspections that we did repeat inspections in April, and those we're happy to report all passed. We were able to complete 34 inspections at 5 schools from district office staff in April. 18 of those inspections unfortunately failed, so we will complete those re-inspections in May. The goal for our staff right now with district and HES for the next month, obviously with the last month of school, is to really push our communications with our administration and to get these spaces and schools ready for end of the year events. So we're going to move on from our spot inspection page. You can see our new layout and graphics there. We're continuing with that model. Page 2 is going to present and show you staffing percentages. I'd like to note that these percentages are only being shown when the staffing reflection is under 100%. So that's why you don't see all the locations there. These staffing numbers were reported by our custodial contractors through April 30th. And we are showing a 3-month period, so we can kind of start to see from February to April those trends. We did add a trend column this month, just so you can kind of visually see what our ups and downs are. If it's below 100%, it's going to be red. If it's 100%, then you're going to see that it's green, and that just visually you're able to glance at it and really see those locations within this 3-month period that have had more of a staffing decrease. So moving down the page to the next section, we have recognizing success. So HES was successful in completing spring break cleaning at multiple locations. Some of those tasks include deep cleaning classrooms, flooring, disinfecting. They did complete a small project at Mossy Oaks Elementary School to address classroom floors where we had mastic seeping through. So they were able to knock that glue down, scrub and resurface those floors. We also had, HES also reported that they had 5 employee awards for the month, which included awards to employees that were assigned to MC Riley Elementary, Joseph Shanklin Elementary, St. Helena Elementary School, Beaufort Middle School, and Bluffton High School. So that was a good thing for those custodial employees. Moving on to the next page, we've got our custodial update spotlight photos. So you can see here, these are some of the before and afters for floor service work that was done at Ladies Island Middle School and Broad River Elementary School. And I mean, they're pretty significant. The before and afters, and these were taken during their spring break clean. The custodial services, just to give you all an update before I ask for questions and we move to maintenance. The custodial services, request for proposals, the RFP solicitations has been published with a deadline of May 31st at 4 p.m. We did complete, district office staff and procurement did complete custodial school tours last week with vendors. I'm happy to report we had a phenomenal showing. I was very excited about some potential vendors that came through last week. So, we're hopeful that we'll have a good amount of submitters for this solicitation. So that concludes the custodial piece of it. Before I move on to maintenance, are there any questions on the custodial?
I just have a comment. That top picture on page 3, the comparison of the before and after, that is striking. That should, that could be a very good picture to use in your explanation of why you do it.
Right.
Picture of it goes out into the public.
Mhm.
I guess if they say, well, why to get like that? But for me, it's looking and seeing the routine, and I saw when you do your paint schedule, I think I guess middle school is really a challenge, so they're painted every 3 years, and senior and elementary is painted every 4. Okay, so
Right.
good message, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, and I assume what I hear a lot of ladies on mill like on this floor is it's actually pencil lead that causes this a lot. Like you grind, once you get people to sharpen their pencils and you grind in the pencil lead, until they come in and scrub it like this, they can't get it out. And it always looks dirty, and it's the graphite from the pencils on kids' shoes and all over that. So if they let that get out of hand, it can look like, I'm assuming that's what this is, but
Yes. It's built up layers of dirt and pencil lead, is what that is. And as the school year, as they go through the school year, those 5 to 6 layers of wax just get lower and lower and lower based on just common traffic and coming in and out. So, this particular picture is significant from the start of the school year until spring break. This is how much our floors transition.
Wow.
Yeah, it's striking. It is striking.
I have
Yes,
a
ma'am.
question, it may seem kind of silly, but do you share this information with the custodial staff per school? Or do you go meet and go to the custodial staff and show them the improvements?
So the district level, so at a district level, district office staff meet with the district manager. And then the district manager, he meets with his account managers, his team, he has a team of 5. He meets with them weekly. And then they have their monthly meetings with their staff, the account managers do at the individual schools. So yes, there's kind of a hierarchy of it. But yes, there is meetings that happen from the account manager to the staff at that particular assigned school.
Well, I'm saying you shared this information.
I shared this report with the district management team for HES and ABM for both maintenance and custodial. Yes, ma'am.
Do they share it with?
Yes, I share it with the contractors. Yes, I share this report with the management team.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Majors, would it be worthwhile carrying back the feedback and comments that, were generated here by this first picture? Yeah, I mean, to Ms. Gordon's point, just showing that picture and sharing with them the appreciation that came from this group just from
Oh,
seeing.
definitely. I agree. Definitely. And I will relay that and ask that to be shared.
Please do. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for custodial?
Are we with this?
Okay, all right. So we're gonna move on to maintenance. The first 2 sections, I just want to point out the first 2 sections, and this is kind of a new reporting format that we went to just give a little more visual features instead of so many flat numbers. We were presenting pages and pages of flat numbers, and so we're trying to kind of visually make this a little more attractive. So those first 2 sections, the total work order counts and the completion totals on this page, those are reflective of fiscal year to date totals. So that takes you from July 1, 2023 through April 30 of 2024. So you can see there, we're tracking in totality the total number of work orders requested compared to what's been completed through April 30 of 2024, as well as what's currently work orders in progress. I just kind of want to clarify that for those two sections. Tracking, I always look at the completed work order totals for non-preventative maintenance and preventative maintenance. So we're still tracking in the high 90s and over 100% for each one of those categories. As you move down the page, you're going to see the total work orders requested and completed, and then the maintenance initiated work orders and the percent of maintenance initiated. Those are all specific to the month. So those are not calculated based on fiscal year. We did something a little different with the total work orders requested and completed. We added an additional graph line there. So you have 3 months of information. So you didn't have that last month. You have 3 months of information. So you can start to see the trending. How are we doing? Are we staying pretty steady across 3 months, or are we starting to fluctuate, decrease, increase? So you can see that from the bar indications, but then you also have that green or vertical line that indicates your completion totals for the month. So I'm going to keep on saying for the month in this section. And you can see where in relation to the total of the PMs and the non-PMs, where we're hitting for completion totals. As we move down the page, we did add 3 months snapshot for maintenance initiated work orders. So you can start to see that, what trend we're doing there, as well as the percent of maintenance initiated. So all of these numbers, looking at them from a 3 month, higher up point, you can see we're pretty much staying in line. We're not seeing major fluctuations up or down in any of these categories, which is good news. So any questions on that page of data before I move on to the craft categories?
Anyone? I would just like to say it shares a lot of information very concisely. We just like that. So thank you.
You're welcome. The craft categories, we had 2 craft categories this month that are 2 highest were HVAC and plumbing. For plumbing, we had 205. Head High School had the most with 20. Still not a lot. That only puts us at a 9.75% amount out of the 205. But it's, again, for the same reoccurring things that we've been seeing, which are clogged drain lines, clogged toilets, clogged urinals. It's cyclic in the sense that the work orders go in, our maintenance staff go out, they address it, they clear it, and then they just get ready for the next phase of it happening again. So they are monitoring that location closely. Maintenance staff, as you'll see on the next page, the maintenance department is still working very diligently to try to hire plumbers. So I'll put that out there. They are still finding very difficult time hiring plumbers. We're still getting down to plumbers for our maintenance staff. The next category was H.
Bring that back to ACE. Plumbers, ACE may need to bring that, so we can have somebody help plumbers.
That's the point.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
HVAC, we saw Beaufort Middle School. Those were just out of the 184 work orders, we had 11 that were reported for Beaufort Middle School. We had broken belts and then some warranty service issues that we had on newer units, and those were honored and acknowledged by the contractor. They came out immediately and they rectified those. Any questions on craft categories for this month? Yes, sir.
Once we look at past the top one, all the others, the requested is higher than the ones completed.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a function of the shortage of plumbers and other persons?
It is. I mean, it does. Requested versus completed does fluctuate. And you'll see in some of these categories, there's actually higher completion numbers versus what was requested. So what we're finding with this section of the report, and this was noted last month by Mr. Nay as well, because we had one of our categories that were off. If our data analyst that we have pulling our work order information, if she pulls too fast, so if she pulls the first business day of the month following the report date, her numbers very different versus if she waited, like this month I had her wait and pull data a week before this report was due, which gave our maintenance staff a week and a half, almost 2 more weeks to complete more work orders. So it's just those little nuances that depending upon when we pull this data, it can alter those numbers, unfortunately.
And when you're saying completing a work order, you're saying doing the paperwork of a work order.
Right, that is correct. That's correct. Because recognize our CMMS, our work order system is online, but our technicians are completing manual papers. They're not in the system completing their work orders. They're still completing manual papers that they turn into their managers, and then those managers go into the system and complete those work orders. So right there, if our data specialist pulls it, like I said, that first day after the month, and then they end up completing a lot of work orders after or before, you've got a lot of room for fluctuation there with these particular categories.
Yes, sir. In terms of that lightings, have we fixed the lights over at the high school auditorium, because it's darkening, and they've told me that if that work order have been in there for ever and a day now, and they said something about they needed a lift, and I spoke to the principal, and I also spoke to the office manager. They said that work order has been in there for a while now, and that the auditorium is darkened. To me, that is a safety and security concern. Having kids, not knowing if we can have kids in there sneaking around or anything else, or if anybody could sneak in there and jump out on us. So that is something that we need to definitely make sure that we can actually get the lights in there.
Yes, I can follow up on that.
Yeah.
So,
And you're referring to the seat lighting, the house lighting, not the stage lighting.
No, the house light, right?
Okay.
The seat lightings.
Okay.
Yeah. And then also in terms of, there was also some work that the previous 8% person who came and did some work that he was supposed to come back and do as well. And I don't know if that work has been done as well. It just made me thought about all that stuff. There was the guy, the contractor was supposed to come back and make good on some stuff that he did not do. And working on the 8% projects for last summer. And I don't know if there's they definitely can get out a bit on that as well.
Beaufort High.
Yeah, Beaufort House, yes, ma'am, and the auditorium, and then the school part, not the pack, but the auditorium in the school, the contractor, that's stuff he was supposed to, like I said, make good on. So I mean, but those are the questions that we definitely know at this time.
So if I can, the auditorium lights you're referring to, that's the large performing arts center. The stage lights are the smaller performing.
I'm talking about lights all across the auditorium.
The big auditorium.
No, I'm talking about the auditorium that's in the school.
The smaller.
The small auditorium.
So both instances are about the small.
Right, both instances are about the small auditorium.
Okay. So yeah, we'll look into that and get back to you.
And they were told that they need to order some type of lift or something to get up there to do that or something, and that's been a long time now. I mean, we should be able to use it to have, different meetings and stuff when we're there, and that's, like I said, that's also a safety and concern, security concern.
thank you, Mr. Smith.
Moving on to page 6, we have work order completion totals. So page 6 and page 7, I won't go through this if y'all have any questions, but this is basically a snapshot of north of the Broad, south of the Broad. What are we doing? How many are we requesting? How many are we completing within the same month? This month we did add, I just want to point out, we did add a graph. We did add some additional trend data down there because we wanted to show you how are we tracking with the average days of completion for the last 3 months. You can see we were pretty high at that 5, and then we dipped down. We did really good. We really nailed some things in March, and then we're kind of trending back up to that 4.6. So if we go to page 7, south of the Broad, you're going to see a very similar dip, not as drastic. At the bottom of page 7, you'll see a little bit of a dip as well. When we were at the 4, we dipped down to the 3, and we'll back up to the 4. Page 8, moving on, is the blitz information for, we did a blitz at Oak T Elementary School this month. So you'll see here the information we captured for how many work orders were completed, as well as a few of the projects that our maintenance team was able to complete during the blitz. So they completed a volleyball court installation, which was a pretty big project, as well as starting to remove some of those trees that were impacting the facade of the building. I've reported on page 9, just kind of briefly, maintenance staffing, 92%. You can see there our biggest hurdle right now that we are fighting would be our 2 plumbers. That's a significant, and it's been, we have been tracking with that vacancy for quite some time. We have spoken with ABM, and they have reported that they've increased their wages for this position, as well as tried to do some other creative things with recruiting. So I will bring up the Beaufort Jasper Academy of Career Excellence to see if they've reached out to, that particular location, as well as, USC Beaufort, or, our technical college in the area, to see if they're pushing for any local candidates. I mean, those are potentially really good resources. So thank you for that. The last part of this report is maintenance. It's just recognizing success, their successful completion of their school blitz, as well as they completed multiple small projects, hand dryer, wall plate installations at Beaufort L, a lot of furniture moves right now, a lot of box deliveries to get ready for our very heavy construction schedule that's coming up this summer. As well as going through our campuses and starting the pressure washing and the gutter cleaning. So that concludes the maintenance and custodial report for this month. Do y'all have any questions?
Yes. And the blitz, who's next? And is there a queue of blitz, or do you just look at who's got the most outstanding requests and try to knock them out, or how does the blitz happen?
So we alternate it between north and south. So next month we'll do north. We do look at work order numbers to see where we're tracking. If we're tracking at the particular location is tracking really high. We also look at principal requests. If we have a considerable amount of emails that have come through requesting time and presence. We also look at schools, to see if there's significance in events or things that are coming up that we need to address, either from a community event standpoint, or just we need to get ahead at this particular location because we need to prepare for construction, or we need to prepare for cleaning schedules. So in a nutshell, we look at a lot of different things to make that decision as far as where we're going to go. But next month we'll be at a north.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I do have one more, another question I have for Mr. Ivan as well. In terms of Leyland Elementary School, the dance floor, I know they have been working on they've been working in the cafeteria. And how are we looking to fix that floor in that school, because of the fact that I know we were just there working on that school not long ago in terms of renovation. So what's the plan moving forward? I know that there was a specific amount of money that was said that they probably would take out for it, but would that be suffice enough? And also being that Mrs. Crowder just said what she said, In terms of, I don't even know what you're trying to say, I said, no, that's right. In terms of, yeah, option that we had in terms of making things good. Yes, man, that's, in terms of you, those might have a little more honey in the jar than what we thought. But what's that process and what does that look like? I'm sorry. So that's a concern, because child parents, well, that just last night.
So Brandon, tell me if I'm wrong here, but I believe we have proposals for that work and I believe we're scheduling it for the summer, is that?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
So it's in the pipeline, ready to do whenever, kids get out of the building.
Yeah, but that's why I'm looking for more teeth in that answer. That's why I just said, it, said we're gonna fix it, but, and then the cost, what's the mind of going, how are we fixing it, in terms of, are we taking out the whole floor? What does
It's a complete replacement.
It's 100% complete replacement. Yes, sir.
Okay, because, but I'm okay, because, parents thought that we were going in, that we were patching up what was there, and that we were basically just making the floor great, so that, great enough to be able to use next year, and that's not the, they weren't happy with that, so I wasn't sure, so that's why I wanted to ask a question, and probably didn't get the proper understanding of what that looks like in the world, what we exactly doing, because I believe that the parents, later told me that it was actually, I told them a number of $25,000, something like that.
Something like that. It's in that range.
And so now y'all didn't tell me, so you know, obviously, I didn't pull it out of the air if it was told to me, so.
We had a contractor come in and evaluate, as well as our construction team evaluate, repair versus replacement. What are our options? Is there even an option? And so the recommendation of the contractor was to completely replace that.
So, thank you for raising that, Mr. Smith, because that empowers us, the union in particular, to take that back.
Right.
When it came up, the team had already done a lot of, full work, gotten a complete replacement, so we're going high quality, so. But you're bringing it up is very beneficial, just like Ms. Boatwright and Mr. Campbell can make operations. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any others? Future topics?
Future topics that came out of the board meeting is the
Okay.
vehicle that's been moved to the operations.
Okay.
We will be bringing that to the meeting in June. We won't be ready for this second meeting in May, but we will be ready in June.
Speaking of the meeting in June,
When
it would normally be June the 11th, but that is a board meeting day now because of graduation. So do you all want your regular operations meeting to be June 18th?
Does that not squeeze the agenda, the time schedule for some of the things we talked about?
You have a special call meeting, remember, on May 23rd at 3 for your projects. So I was just trying to keep it on Tuesdays or whatever.
And we can't do the first week because we have graduation.
Right, so, and what would normally be your operations meeting is a board meeting now, so. I was proposing the following on the 18th, but it's wherever you all want it to be.
Yeah, I've got your schedule.
Yeah, I don't have any issue.
Everybody okay with that, Colonel?
18th, yes.
Ms. Gordon?
18th at 5
I
o'clock.
wasn't gonna say that.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll have to sing happy birthday, Robert,
Yes.
that day.
The 18th of June. That's right.
All right.
We have to celebrate.
Yes, absolutely.
Operations on the 18th at 5 o'clock. The district will be closed on the 19th. We have one week left.
Okay, anything else? Is it okay if we adjourn by?
Unanimous.
Oh,
consent.
also, I got you. Also, in terms of what's this versus majors, what was majors do? I've been getting some concerns about the food. And one parent,
That would be me. That would be part.
okay. So okay, well, I guess we bring it to finance, the finance
Yes, sir.
So I'm glad that you're here, because basically what I was gonna say
We
was
have
that,
finance committee on Thursday.
right, well, basically, I just give you a heads up. What I was gonna say was that basically we need a Mrs. Majors over in finance then for the food, because the food is kind of a hit and miss. Some days are good, some days are not, and when it's bad, it's bad. A
Okay,
lot of kids in there that didn't eat, so I don't know.
Same thing.
yeah,
Yeah, so.
so you duly noted under your umbrella.
Yes.
Thank you, handle it as you do normally. All right, by unanimous consent, thanks everybody for your patience.
Thank you.